Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Botello here, and welcome. Welcome to this week's Wednesday Wisdom. For you guys who are new to the group, I want to say welcome. You guys know that this group is all about living a diabetes-free life. Again, for those of you who are jumping on with me live tonight, awesome to have you guys here with me. For those of you who are going to be watching this recording afterwards, I want to say welcome to you as well. You guys know that this is an opportunity where every single week I get to share with you the things that we're doing with patients on a day-to-day basis. You know, the strategies that we help patients to be able to live a diabetes-free life. And that's the same life that you can do by taking these strategies and start implementing. We're going to talk about some of that here tonight. You know, that's what the aim of this group is all about, is getting back to a point in your life where you're diabetes-free again. You know, I get to hear so many cool stories from patients that we're working with. And probably some of the greatest stories I hear about, and probably one of the stories that I know everybody likes talking about is, you know, the big weight loss story. Like, who doesn't love to hear about weight loss stories, right? But everyone loves a good weight loss story. But I think for me personally, I think probably the biggest stories that I love hearing about are the redemption stories, or the stories about restoration happening in people's lives. Those typically are my favorite stories, and the stories that tell us and we see on a day-to-day basis about people's health skyrocketing again, their vigor, their vitality coming back. I'll give you an example. I was talking to someone just here today, and they were telling me about how their neuropathy was completely going away. And when I first met them, they were having all kinds of balance issues because of that neuropathy. You know, neuropathy, the numbness, the tingling that happens in your extremities, your feet in particular. And here they are a few months down the road, and they're feeling completely better. They have sensation back in their feet. Their balance has returned. They're walking again. Their mobility is improving. They're doing things with their grandkids they couldn't do just a few months ago. And that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. Those are my favorite stories, the redemption that happens. You know, on kind of that same note, you know, one of the main problems, or some of the problems that we see, I shouldn't say just main problems, we know that diabetes is going to cause complications. And one of the problems that we see that affects diabetic patients is the formation of what we're going to talk about here tonight, and that's kidney stones. If you've ever had a kidney stone, you know how terrible that experience can be. Like my female patients that have had kidney stone experiences, they tell me it's worse than actually having a baby, like worse than birth. Like pain that's so bad, like it can't even make you think. You know, what happens is the kidneys begin to form these stones, and those stones are calcium oxalate crystals, and they start getting larger and larger over time. Sometimes you're fortunate enough where you just pass them and you don't even notice that that's the case. Sometimes they're a lot bigger, and good Lord, like, dear God, you are going to notice when you're passing this. So what I did was I came across some literature that I want to share with you here. We'll put it on the post, but I came across this a while back ago, and it helped me formulate a plan, some strategy that we use on a day-to-day basis with people who are dealing with kidney stones. So I wanted to share this with you, and there's a certain section of the diabetic population that you're just prone to having these kind of stones. And this medical literature lays out an argument for viewing the bladder all the way up to your kidneys, right? All the way up to your kidneys, and looking at it like your gut. Right? And when we talk about your gut has something called a microbiome, and there's a lot of different bacteria that grow inside of your gut that keeps us healthy. Or if you're out of balance, it's going to keep you sick. This makes people ill, and that's kind of how this article got laid out. They looked at your bladder all the way up to your kidneys in kind of a similar way, and I want to share that with you. And they looked at it like saying that your bladder to your kidneys has a microbiome. This means that there's bacteria that's present. Some of that bacteria should be there. That's what we expect. And then there's bacteria that you just got to keep out. Like, you do not want it there. It's sort of like cops and robbers, right, in the kidneys, so to speak. Anyway, one of the pieces of information that the research actually noticed is that people who form stones, they have a higher level of something called E. coli association in their urinary tract. And I want you to make aware of this. They did some studies, and they noticed that this particular version of E. coli was higher when people started forming these calcium oxalate crystals. Again, that's what leads to having kidney stones, right? That's what causes it. They also found out that low levels of another type of bacteria called Lactobacillus cristallis predisposed a person to higher levels of E. coli. Okay, so what does that mean here? Well, what this means is that we see patients with a history of kidney stones. They have a greater fear of getting another one, right? Like they're afraid that they're going to pass another stone, and rightfully so, with the amount of pain that goes along with this. So if you're the type of person, you're listening to me right now, and you're predisposed to having kidney stones in the past, you need to be aware of this relationship between E. coli and this other bacteria that I'm talking to you about. You need to have someone who's looking at your, say, like a stool sample, and be able to see the relationship between good bacteria and bad bacteria. We're talking about E. coli and the other bacteria, the lactobacillus that I just told you about. And when you look at it, if you've got too much of one, the E. coli, compared to the other one, then you're going to wind up more prone to actually developing these oxalate stones. So you need to know about it. And there's a strategy that goes behind that to support people so they can actually start growing and gaining more of this lactobacillus species. And at the same time, how do you curb this E. coli family? And hopefully that makes sense. We don't want too much of E. coli. We want enough of the lactobacillus to actually be able to fight off the E. coli that will leave you prone to then forming these oxalate stones, which leads to kidney stones. So again, hopefully that all makes sense. And it's laid down in the research if you want to read through it, or let me do that and just follow the recommendations that I'm going to have here for you. So the research goes on, and it describes a type of person that's predisposed to these issues. And again, not surprisingly, it's a person who's had extensive, what we call antibiotic therapy in their life. So if you're the person who's listening to me right now, you've developed kidney stones, and you're like, okay, my ears are perked up because I've had kidney stones, and those are no fun. Then what I want to share with you is you might be the type of person who has had multiple bouts of antibiotic therapies in your life. And we all know that when you do antibiotic therapy, it's going to deplete your microbiome of certain bacteria. It just depletes it. It just wipes it away. And as a result, there's going to be overgrowth of others. So what do we do with all this information? How are we going to be able to set you up for success here? First, if you're a stone former, make sure you get someone to look at your stool sample. You want to look at this E. coli family and the other microbiomes that are inside of your gut. You're more likely going to be able to find that there's this overgrowth happening. Next, you're going to want to assess the strength of the lactobacillus family inside of your gut. This gut microbiome sets up the stage for your whole microbiome in your whole body. You know, if you're below the 50th percentile in this lactobacillus concentration, then you're going to need to support. You need to support that bacteria so it doesn't predispose you and continue to predispose you to these stones. Next, you want to look at diet. You want to look at the dietary piece, because we know that if you're a kidney stone former, then you want to stay away from foods that are high oxalate foods, and that will predispose you to actually making stones as well. Or if I say it a little bit differently here, we've talked about this already in our Wednesday sessions here, but you want to have diet that's concentrated on what we call a low oxalate diet. I'll do another video here in the near term about what that really looks like. But when you're having a diet that's a low oxalate diet, you don't give the bacteria in that urinary tract the building blocks that it needs to continue to make more stones. So remember, key point, low oxalate diet. Make sure you have a stool test done that's looking at this concentration of good bacteria to bad bacteria. Again, if you're a stone former, you want to be aware of this, or if you're, hey, I don't want to have stones in the first place, this is something you definitely want to pay attention. And just looking at those two things right there, it can be a big breakthrough for a lot of people. But again, you gotta combine this bacteria balance strategy that we're talking about here. And when you do that and you add the dietary recommendations that we just talked about, it becomes a really, really powerful technique. All right, there we are. I know I've kind of gone and shared a lot of this article with you here. And again, if you'd like to read it, go ahead and read it, or just listen to this video again. There's some key points here. If you're a kidney stone former and you're a diabetic, and obviously this is what this group is about, is a diabetes-free life. But if you're a kidney stone former, or you're worried about potentially forming kidney stones, make sure you assess your microbiome. You want to do that. You want to see the concentration of E. coli to the lactobacillus. You don't want to have too much in comparison to the other. You want to make sure that you have a low oxalate diet. Super, super important, right? This is one of the big things. There's this bacterial connection when we talk about making kidney stones. And this is pretty new in the medical literature, so to speak. I mean, we've known about it now for probably a few years, but it's going to take a lot more years, because before it ever becomes just common knowledge, where you'd walk in and someone's going to talk to you about it at your doctor's office. Usually, generally speaking, it's going to take a lot longer before they start talking to you about these things, if ever, right? But I know this is going to help someone tonight who's listening to this or listening to the recording afterwards. So I think we're going to kind of end it here. I want to thank you for being on here for our Wednesday wisdom session. We'll see you next time. Again, we made some big announcements. We are going to be having our next masterclass. We're going to be going live April 28th, later this month. Make sure you're watching for the information. Make sure you're watching for the post. We'll give you the exact days and times. We're going to have a great session. I wish you all a blessed evening. We'll talk soon.